liftoff.
It's an excursion into the odd and into the very, very different.
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
Tony Caravan.
You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, and not what you don't. Quality, quantity, and variety.
Rock Flux.
Hello. 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 Hello.
Good morning.
And good morning to you. It's 4:43 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Tony Caravan with you for yet another edition of Tony Caravan Live. It is August 3rd, Tuesday, August 3rd, 2021. And we've been going nonstop 7 days a week, nearly 2 hours a day, except on a couple of rare occasions where I had to cut the show short here or there. But generally speaking, nonstop. Actually, even before that. These have been live shows, and it's been quite a trip.
Okay.
She thinks it's great. I got some drinking coffee. I'm going to get a. I'll move this out of the way. Probably heard that slurp. I'm probably going to get a coffee maker. I'm debating on which one to get, though. Since I decided to switch to coffee in the morning. This particular coffee is Folgers Instant. And I put a little bit, I just put like a teeny bit of 100% cacao in there. Right? The stuff cocoa is made out of, right? The cacao. CACAOA. I'm pronouncing that right. And also just a little tip of the spoon of some almond milk ice cream. So it's not pure almond milk. It's just a little bit of almond milk ice cream because I bought that yesterday just for the sake of it. I wanted to see what this non-dairy ice cream thing was. And it turned out it's basically almond milk with like coconut oil or something like that. And of course, probably they call it, it's like I'm not a vegan, but it's like, it's stuff that vegans would have for a treat. Anyway, I got it because what I like to do sometimes is after certain meals, sometimes a salad or a certain thing you make, you have an aftertaste in your mouth. It may taste good while you're eating it, but sometimes you get an aftertaste and it's just, you want something to cleanse the palate, so to speak. And ice cream usually was my go-to thing, sherbet. I tried the frozen yogurt. Like I still don't really know the truth. I mean, I don't often do this first thing on the show. I mean, we've hardly gotten started yet, but I'm going to open up a new window and just ask a question here. There's something it's asking me to do. I don't want to close my browser to get some added security. Okay, so is frozen yogurt, well, they're saying healthy. Well, we'll go with that. Frozen yogurt, a healthy dessert that's low in calories? ? It can contain, let's see, health benefit. Frozen yogurt may have some health benefits compared to other frozen desserts. It can contain beneficial nutrients and bacteria, lower levels of lactose, and fewer calories than desserts like ice cream. It can contain, some frozen yogurt contains probiotics. All right. I don't know how a probiotic would survive they're in the freezer. It may contain lower levels of lactose. That's fine with me. It may provide nutrients. It can be lower in calories. Now, that's coming from Healthline as opposed to, sometimes you have to watch these sites because, you don't want to have, go to the American Dairy Association or something like that, or the American Yogurt Foundation, because they're probably going to say, yeah, it's great. It's healthy for you. Since my little adventure or misadventure in the ER this week, I'm kind of doing some dietary changes. I've also come to the conclusion that, judging from the battery of tests that I had, that, while I'm not in that, 100% perfect, android body, like in Star Trek, they would say, well, Jim, we checked out Tony, and the thing is, his body, it's too perfect. So there's something odd, No, it's more like this. We checked out Tony, and for a guy who's, been a drinker and lived life to the fullest, he's in okay shape. I know. Whoever out. Bones out. So, and that's apropos to today's show, with the title card and everything. I don't know, we'll put Horror Woman up if you guys want. I tried to reorganize my, the names of my things a little bit better so I don't have to be so jumping around all over the place. And I'm going to keep this color here in the background, this little tint. And I don't think at this point, for some reason, the lighting, there's enough light that the codex book back here is visible. So, and the green phone and everything. So I don't know. Let's try this for a while. 4:40 in the morning. I see, the thing is, when it's as dark as the night is going to get, it's like anything else. You light a match in a pitch black room and you can see the whole room. You light a match in a room at twilight or something, and the corners will be dark or something. Ever notice that? Probably not. But anyway, this show, Far Out Man, those are the Pleiades in the background. We're going to talk a little bit about that, maybe, not too in-depth. And the name of this show, the title, so-called title, is The Aliens Are Now in Charge. And I know that's a little freaky to some people. And this is the meme. The title card, remember, we talk about is the meme. So it's like Far Out Man. And so the question is, we'll take that off there. We don't have to deal with that. Our daily image going in line with that is a scene from, I don't know if this is the original Alien or if this was Alien 2, or I forget, those monsters. And then, of course, there was that whole series, that ended up in, what was the last one that began with the P? It was like supposedly to yield the whole theory of how man, was created. That was the whole idea of the Alien series. What was that called? I'm not going to leave you hanging. And, the fact that I have these memory lapses early onset, it's not funny, early onset of dementia or whatever it is. Last Alien movie, Alien Covenant, Prometheus. So I was thinking of Prometheus instead of Alien Covenant, but that's good. That answers the question, Prometheus. And it's that whole idea that, man, it's not even transpermia in that sense. This was that this guy actually, remember the scene where, was it either Covenant or Prometheus, where the guy, who was actually sitting in that weird, funky spaceship in the movie Alien. And I think at this point, pop culture wise, everyone's seen Alien. You have to have seen Alien, the Alien movies. So you know what I'm saying, that weird thing that was, first of all, it looked like it was some giant alien, but then it turned out it was a spaceship. Anyway, one of the guys that was in that, in one of the last movies, I forget if it was Covenant or Prometheus, came to Earth and basically, put his DNA into the water, and that was the origins of human life, and they wanted to destroy us and all that. And people have written lots of different things about this kind of thing. And it's, it's just really, it's like the title card says, it's just far out, man. And, it brings in ideas like this.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture. We are controlled.
Let's skip to the
great
end.
To experience the awe and mystery which reaches from the inner mind to the outer limits.
Yeah, that kind of thing. So, and that is far out, those ideas. And people have these ideas and they believe them. And, there's been, guys like Ike, and we know who we're talking about, who's also been like kind of banned from the public consciousness. And he dealt with like the Dogons, those were the guys that were into that, who talked about Sirius B or Sirius C, say they came from that, star, planet around that star. And then it was discovered later, and an anthropologist tried to say, oh, somehow they were corrupted. But, this was like some isolated tribe, and, it's sometimes the explanations that scientism, not scientists. Today I seem to have like almost a rectangular face. I just get a kick out of the different ways I look. I don't know. Sometimes I think it's just the hat. If it's the hat or, whatever. I don't know. It's just, what can I say?
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
You're slow on the cue there. You're slow on the cue. But that's just vanity. So I'm going to try to get in a nice, decent position. I feel a little bit better. Now, I woke up at 2 a.m. today. And most people, in the old days, I'd be getting out of the bar at, last call, 2:00, and you're heading home. So when I'm rolling out of bed, shaving, washing my face and doing all that nonsense, the morning things, most people would be doing like the complete opposite, like, getting ready to go to sleep, go to bed. It's weird. But I laid down at around 6:30 out of pure and utter boredom. I woke up yesterday at 3. So I was kind of hoping that, today would be 4, and I could get back into something where I was waking up maybe 4:35-ish. But I didn't expect to get up at 2. I stayed in bed till 3 and kept my eyes closed, and had the dark. The room was dark, and and I tried to not meditate. I'm not a really big meditator. Years ago, I used to be able to do that. Years ago, I had a couple successful astral projection events, I guess, or whatever you want to call it. But that's when I was studying like Rosicrucianism, if is that an ism, or the Rosicrucian studies, or whatever it is. And I had gotten out of that for, decades. But what that did teach me was that a lot of people who got caught up in this, and I can't speak with complete certainty. I mean, can we speak with complete certainty about anything? Not necessarily. You know, some would argue that I can't even be certain that I'm holding, you know, coffee and drinking coffee right now. You know, but then that's those that think there's some kind of holographic universe and all of that thing. But what I was getting at is, you know, is the idea of, you know, people always trying to look at things like Freemasonry and the Illuminati and the Rosicrucians and different, you know, groups like that as if that's, you know, they're the enemy. And, you know, that's kind of where I break with guys like David Icke, where I could get into the idea of, in fact, there is another image I forgot to bring up, and I'm going to find it. I have it right here. I might as well put that up just to give you this is just kind of semi-funny. You'll get a kick out of it. There we go. This was something I had created when I used to DJ at this weird club. I used to DJ at like early happy hours, but nobody would show up because everybody wanted to come out at like 10 or 11 at night. And I had after work happy hours. And so I call this Boozilla. And this was just the background. On the front of it, I had like the promo for my DJ, you know. I was playing classic R&B stuff, you know, like the really good stuff. Let's see if I have anything here to just give you a taste of the type of stuff I'd be playing. Things like maybe, you know, things like that, or, you know, or maybe, let's see what else we got in here that's like in that vein. Well, not this, but this is this. You name this song in one note. I gotcha. Or 1 second, I should say. Or, you know, that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, and now you're thinking, man, I'd like to hear a lot of those songs. You know, or anyway, you can get away with playing like 1 or 2 seconds without getting a copyright thing. So I found. I think you could play up to 6 seconds. I'm not sure, but I'm not going to push it because they like take down your videos if you do that thing. But anyway, there's Boozilla. And the only reason I bring up Boozilla because I was talking about David Icke. And this show, you know, this is the Far Out Man show, you know. Well, let's put our title card all the way up. Well, Boozilla shouldn't be the ultimate thing. But anyway, Far Out Man, you know. And, you know, like I say, this is where I break ranks with guys like Icke, you know, who has been, even though he's, you know, I mean, he's totally out, you know, out of the mainstream, that apart from, you know, certain things that he said, and I guess there's certain things any of us say, that's the whole thing, you know, the right to disagree, you know, the thing that's been taken away from society today is that idea that you can have an opinion. And even if your opinion is considered, you know, radical or off the wall, you still have the right, or you should have the right. I mean, this idea of censorship of, you know, just somebody having an alternative view. But the thing is, you know, yeah, there's certain areas that he goes that I like go, well, you know, I disagree with that. You know, like he's into that Illuminati, you know, type of, like they're all tied in and that kind of thing. And and like I say, I can't say with 100% certainty. I don't know, like I say, but I did dabble in that. I studied some, the Rosicrucian studies when I was younger, back in the 80s. And, and that's I'm not like breaking any like secrets, anyone could do that. And they actually you can go, I think it's in San Diego. I never went, I don't know if it's in San Diego, somewhere out there. They may have them some other places. You could actually go, and they've got museums of like stuff. So they share this stuff. But, you can study and learn about, the ancient order. And these are just secrets passed down. And, the word secret might not even be right. It's just the idea, traditions, more or less, that have just been passed down through these groups through the ages, which is really no different than really in my mind, than Freemasonry, which initially, had its roots in basically, how to build a, building, these great structures. And all you have to do if you, is the idea, the contribution of the Freemasons and, to the world and civilization is all you have to do is look at Europe and even in the capital in the U.S. and major cities and look at these structures. But particularly, like I say, you go back to Europe and look at these structures, thousands of years old, and at least centuries years old, that have withstood, time, weather, and aging and time. And, and so this was, so these tradesmen, masons, many of which were members, were considered Freemasons as well, were also tradesmen too. People like George Washington was openly a Freemason, But it's similar with like the Illuminati. Now, anyway, today's show's not about that. But anyway, I don't see them as, the end. Now, what I wanted to get into, and like I said, this is slightly a little bit on the light side, by me having Boozilla up here, I put the Yingling bottle in his hand because this was something I created for my show. A promo card, like these bar cards. You get 4 out of a regular standard letter sheet, you know what I'm saying? And you put them on the counters and hand them out to get people to come up to my happy hour show. And anyway, but I mean, this idea that Ike had about these, what did they call them? Not lizard people, but, reptilians, the reptilian aliens, okay? And, and he's presented that whole idea, and he gets into the royal bloodline and stuff like that, and somehow ties all that stuff together. And what I was saying in Ike's defense is that, apart from all of that, practically everything else he said was pretty much on target with what's been, what's come out over the past, I don't know, 5 or 10 years, and the way civilization has ended up. Now, the question of whether or not the aliens are among us, like the title on my show, and whether there's these various groups such as reptilian aliens, the Nordics, right? And all that kind of stuff. Well, that's a whole different story, and, it's not like, the History Channel Ancient Alien, and I could have brought up a picture of that guy. I have a picture of him, which I do have. I mean, but it's not, I don't have it active, and I'm not going to add it to my list. I got too many things that I have. I don't like to have to sift through too many photos, It's like I like to be able to see what I can see, there you go, just to get people going. And how YouTube, like when you have the title cards there, after a day or two, they have like an animation to them. It's like this bikini thing keeps popping up on about 5 of my different videos. Like, why don't they just pop up something like the hoodie, you know? So it's like, you know, promote something like that. But anyway, I wanted to, just for the sake of it, since this is, you know, you are listening.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you, my dear. Look at this. I just took this picture this morning. This is from in my kitchen. These are tomatoes that I brought in the house. All right. And I have tomatoes like in my garden like crazy. Look at those things. So I don't even know what to do. You know, I really like tomatoes. I like to slice up one tomato, put a little bit of mayo on it. I put some turmeric and black pepper because that's like a good anti-inflammatory. I chop up garlic, fresh garlic, and I put that on there. The mayo kind of neutralizes the garlic, so it's not overpowering in your mouth. But garlic is like good for the heart, you know, and another anti-inflammatory. Remember, inflammation is the worst thing in the world. It's the root cause of just about everything. And, you know, I just got some kosher dill pickles. I did one of these home delivery things, right? Where you get the groceries delivered to your door. And I didn't order that much. I ordered like $30 worth of stuff. And the last time I ordered it, they gave me a substitution. It was just like regular dill pickles. But this isn't like, not even when you go to the grocery store, you know, we're in the, you know, first of all, if it says kosher dill pickles and it's just in a jar and it's in the shelf like warm, you know, regular, forget it. But you could sometimes go into like the meat section and you'll see kosher dill pickles and they'll be, you know, refrigerated. Now they're a little bit better, okay? But I just got these from Aldi delivered yesterday, and I had to open it up instantly, you know, because I haven't had. And they are like just right. Just the first bite into that took me back to New York City, a deli, right? A kosher dill pickle. What a flavor! What a flavor! Anyway, so sometimes I'll put a kosher dill pickle slice on a wrap, you know, like a tortilla wrap. And maybe a slice of cheese, you know, thin slice of Swiss cheese or something weird like that. And who knows, you know, maybe whatever else is laying around. A little bit of olive oil, extra virgin olive oil. Like I say, that's like a medicinal sandwich, really, but it tastes so good. But the story is, it's only one tomato. And look at this pile of tomatoes I have right now sitting on the counter. And I've got like, you know, dozens and dozens more growing outside. So I guess what I'm going to have to do is start cutting up like 3 or 4 tomatoes and making some kind of like tomato salad. Maybe throw in some broccoli, you know, and some banana peppers and some different things from out in the backyard. I mean, I've got to eat these tomatoes. I have been giving them away. You know, I'm pretty generous with my garden, as generous as I can. But like I said, I've been giving tomatoes away. I even gave a zucchini away the other day. And I don't have many zucchinis. But I got my first, if you check my Instagram page out, which is really just, I would say it's 99% garden stuff. It's got a picture of like yesterday's zucchini. Or it was a yellow summer squash, I guess you would call it. But there is a picture of a zucchini and a couple of tomatoes on there as well. But before we get into that, I gotta acquaint myself. I don't know if I showed this picture by Trey before. I just went there. This was sent to me Sunday, which was the 1st. That's a pretty crazy looking ocean right now. I mean, more so, it's not that calm, at least in that picture. I mean, I wouldn't want to like dive in there. But it's a nice sunrise. All his pictures, he's a sunrise guy. So we still live in this beautiful world. And that's just a picture from a day or two, a couple days ago. But, when people talk about the climate and, I'm far out in space, it's like the line from, what was his name? The philosopher. I'm so slow going in the morning that it really does. It's disturbing. But I mean, it's 5:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the former United States. But one of my favorite philosophers, and his name will come to me, Alan Watts. Okay, Alan Watts. Has a good line, when someone said once about, what does he think about space? I forget what the question was or whatever. Or he might have just been in the middle of one of his little dissertations. And thank God they recorded those things audio-wise. They're all over YouTube. And he said, we're way out in space, man. Way out. And, that's kind of like the far out man inspiration on the title card. But I wanted to bring this image in, because I'm trying to cover all grounds here. And, with all the craziness going on, part of this, and like I say, I'm just totally against politics and any kind of polarization, that whole game, everything that's going on, that's coming from this, let's call it what it is, this authoritarian state. And it's not really left, right, red, blue, whatever. It's because it's a corporatocracy. But so, they're trying to pass this, I guess this infrastructure bill is the latest thing I hear. And, that's got elements of some kind of green New Deal. And then there's a separate, $3 or $4 trillion thing they want to pass because they're trying to rush the first one through. And then I'm showing you this picture. And it's a little bit distorted because this is technically from a graphic artist standpoint, this is a CMYK image. I tried adjusting it, but I can't get. These are actually blades of grass. The camera was down low to the ground. And I'm just showing the blue sky, the clouds, and the grass. All right? And you could remember in previous videos where I've taken it down. I mean, I could bring it back, but I mean the scenes of rolling hills and forests and trees. And we talked about that. And I'm not going to really talk about it again because, you know what I'm talking about because you have looked outside your window. Like, unless you're living in an inner city neighborhood and you never have left, gone within several blocks, or you take some kind of rail train or subway or underground and you just go into a building and that's it. But for everyone else, at least in the former United States here, with 330 plus million people, I would say 300 million of them have seen rolling hills and greenery and flowers and growth everywhere. All right? And have looked up, and particularly this summer, I know that there's areas where they have forest fires, and they've been having forest fires. Ask the American Indians. And yes, every American Indian that I've talked to has referred to himself as an Indian. Okay, I'm sure there are some that might want to call themselves Native Americans, but I mean, and they are. But when I say, Indians, American Indians, as opposed to, which is a ridiculous term because, it's based on the idea of Columbus thinking he went around the world, right? And this was India, so he called them Indians. Some goofy thing like that, right? But however, whatever, just ask them and they'll tell you, the cycles of life, nature. This year is climate-wise, cyclically, it's not uncommon that we can expect these forest fires are not an aberration. But be that as it may, the Pacific Northwest is just very green, except if you're in the middle, if you just decided to build a $2 million chateau in the middle of some wooded area and you didn't clear the brush or anything. And it never dawned on you that lightning strikes there and that they have forest fires on a cyclical basis, regular basis, actually. But no matter where you go, just look at Canada, look all over. Even, as many people as criticize and talk about, the tragedy of the Amazon and stuff. It's still forested, all right? The jungles of Central and South America, of Africa, Southeast Asia, a thicket of Vietnam. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like, the machete in modern days has become a weapon, but the machete was a necessity in days gone by just to travel because of the growth, to just get through a path and how paths were constantly being overgrown. Anyway, we live in a beautiful world is what I was trying to say. So whether you want to say, it's a world of plenty, I grew these in my backyard from seeds, okay? And not the alien, right? And it's a beautiful world too. But this is a beautiful world, okay? So, let's get with it. Let's deal with this stuff and let's what happened to that photo I just showed you? Climate, here it is. So, blue skies and green grass. Was that high times, blue grass, something in high times? Whatever. So we live in a beautiful world. And these people are, there's like 3 or 4 major things that seem to be going on that, that are the absurdity of it. And that's kind of what I'm trying to tie all this together and see if we can start at this point and somehow get to where all of this craziness and madness that's going on will somehow come full circle, and that we could make some kind of sense of it. That's what I want to do. And it's like, I'm being selfish because I'm trying to make some sense of this myself. Because it just doesn't make sense on the surface. So we have politics has become pop culture, which I say every frickin' day, ad nauseum, and I'm sure you're sick of hearing it, people who regularly watch this show. But we have to say right off the top, politics has become pop culture. It's got no business being pop culture. No business. Hey, if every 4 years or so you want to, people want to get into some kind of thing like that, and in the past, that's fine and dandy. Okay? But in the interim, no. And even then, it's a thing that should not be elevated the way it's been the national obsession. Okay. So national obsession number one, okay, is pop culture. Is politics is pop culture. And tied into that, which is another Tony Caravanism, is the cult of personality. Because we have tied in these political beings, right? Puppets, whatever you want to call them, marionettes. And we've assigned to them some sort of cult of personality, right? So that's like number one. It just is just whacked out. Number two is the government as in charge of us and our well-being and health, right? Like, what's up with that? Okay. That's that's new. That's new. We have, and also just scaring people to death. That's why I kept the horror woman up, right? Because, people are just going wacko because the government is saying one thing one day and then the next day they're saying something different. And people have no idea what to believe, right? And I am not free, because I enjoy doing these morning shows, right? I enjoy this. I like podcasting. Now, it's not like that's the only choice I have, there's, Adam Curry's got that podcasting index in Mastodon and, which generates an RSS feed, and I could do a podcast from another location and still disseminate it. And obviously my numbers on YouTube are so low that it doesn't, it's no big deal. The only reason why I currently enjoy YouTube and play by the rules, right? The Constitution giveth and the terms of service taketh away. Why I play by the rules and avoid saying anything that could, get them crazed is that I like doing it live because there's the honesty of it, right? The transparency of it. I make a mistake. It's there. What you see is what you get. There's nothing, no rehearse. I design an image or pick some images to put on, but there's no rehearsal here. This is just right off the cuff. I'm not reading anything. I've got, unless there's something I want to share with you. And so I like the idea of live. I've explained that about my music is the same way. I've basically, even though I recorded it multi-track, those 50-some songs, beat poetry tracks, I still did them live. And I would say 99% of the time, and we're going to use the word 99% a lot today, because it applies in so many categories in so many weird and different ways. But 99% of the time, I never went back and did a second edit on something. In other words, the rhythm track was laid down, the bass line. If there was a lead guitar, I just did the lead solo. If it wasn't perfect, I left it. Then I did the vocal, and if I kind of stumbled on a word or something like that, I left it. 99% of the time. Because I wanted it to be authentic, as if you were seeing me live, because I was doing it live. And then, and that is honesty. And I do that in my books now, too. It's like I edit them, but I don't have an outside editor. And I do the best I can, but there's mess, every now and then there's some like a screw up, spell check or something will kind of screw something up, or I might screw something up. I mean, I'm just talking about maybe almost typographically, or stylistically an error where, you just, when you edit your own stuff, you tend to read, you'll go over, no matter how many times you look at a sentence, you might keep missing something because in your mind, you're reading it a certain way. That's why if you ever really want to be sure about proofreading something, and I was a proofreader, because I did graphics when I was younger and worked at print shops and stuff, is read the sentence backwards. But I'm not going to read my entire book backwards. You know what I mean? So it's like, I write books, I do these live broadcasts, and I record my music live. It's multi-track, it ends up being mixed down, but it's live. It's as live as you can be. And everything I do is that way. And I like that. And until someone else comes up with another way, another system, this is the best there is that I know of. And you could tell by, what I'm able to do. And people who have been following me with all along, not necessarily as so-called followers, but who have watched these things from time to time over the past year, have noticed the gradual improvements in quality and technology that I've added to these live podcasts. I just call them webcasts. So anyway, all that said is, I was talking about these things. And this is where the 99% gets into, because the second thing was this health idea. All right? Like the corporatocracy is in charge of our health. Now we know the corporatocracy, big pharma, which is a part of that with big tech and, military and contractors and the central banks and, the whole laundry list of people who are profiting on everything that's going on right now, including the corporate media, and the media moguls who are billionaires, and the on-air talent, so to speak, the anchors, many of which who are making double-digit millions. Salaries, annual salaries. So totally out of touch. So they have no interest in what they're putting on. No matter, they are actors. They are reading scripts. They have teams. They have writers. All right? Script consultants. They have earpieces in. There's a producer. Okay? I'm doing this show live by myself at 5:20 a.m. Eastern Standard Time in the front room of my house. All right? Which is in a pretty much, I would say, low rent neighborhood, more or less. I'm in the outskirts of town. All right. It's a nice looking, the neighborhood is fairly decent looking. All right. But it's, it's a multicultural neighborhood and, everybody seems to get along just fine, which also goes against the narrative that that's being pushed out there by these people making $20 million, these anchors and these other pundits and marionette politicians who are really just work for the corporatocracy. In the real world, and I think that's another thing just like me showing those blades of grass and blue sky earlier, that that when you are out in the real world, the things they say in the media, and when I say media, I mean everything. Twitter is media, okay? Television is media, radio is media, Newspapers are media. All right. Facebook is media. This is media. But the things that are out there, they seem to contradict what's going on in the real world. And sometimes you wonder, this whole concept of lockdown, like, is it that they don't want people to see that, hey, the sky's blue, right? That the entire country isn't on fire. It's just forest fires where they usually have forest fires. Okay? And that storms and hurricanes and things like that happen. And you do get things called nor'easters, and you do get tornadoes in Tornado Alley, and you always have, and unfortunately always will. And there are tragedies for the people that, that get caught up in that. But it's even a bigger tragedy that this so-called government that functions as this nanny state and this father protector, what we're talking about in the health area right now, that instead of focusing on stuff like that, which is up to us and our doctor, right? That's between us and our physician, our doctor, or hospital or these urgent care centers that have propped up all over the country now, or you can go to an urgent care center in most parts of the U.S. right now. You don't have to go into an emergency room in many places. And they'll do outpatient treatment. You might have to sit in a chair for, up to an hour. In some places, it depends on what the workload is that day. Just a quick aside, when I went in the ER earlier or last week, the days just like blur to me. That place was completely empty. Again, going totally against the narrative that was on the media. Like hospitals being overcrowded again and people are blah, blah, blah. And like I say, that one guy, that Days of Noah guy, whatever, had posted that, a dozen different people had posted the exact same tweet about ERs being crowded and stuff like that. And I'm like, it was funny. It's like, hey, I was just in one and there was nobody. I went in, they took me right away. I sat in a chair and I was there by myself. And the hallways were empty. So I don't know. But, the idea is, I guess one of the things that we need to get across to ourselves, yesterday I was talking, it was a free flow of consciousness type of show. I thought it was all right. It wasn't the greatest, but it was pretty good. Got some, there were some ideas came across out of it. And one of them, is an ongoing theme, this consciousness thing. I guess I take the title card down, we could look back at my Codex book. So I pulled that out because that's about consciousness. And there's some free flow of consciousness in the end. It's a short read. But the idea is that you're your own person. And you have to understand that as a human being, the turnoff for people was, and I was watching my concurrent viewers then, but I'm on early enough now that there's nobody watching, basically. Which I kind of like it like that, I mean, I wouldn't mind speaking to an audience of 100 people or 1,000 people. It would be nice. But, it's just the way it is. And I circulate these things around. People comment on it. I don't know why the numbers don't go up because I get comments on other sites. You see, I'll push this around on locals, on, Podcast Index, Mastodon, on Minds, I'll even put a link on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr just a link to the video. I don't do social media anymore because I do this. This is my, I guess this social media, if you want to call it that. But I mean, this is TV to me. Podcasting, webcasting, worldwide webcast, whatever. And I do that, and on those things, I get comments.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
I get comments from people. But yet the numbers on YouTube don't seem to go up. But it's a link to the YouTube video, so that's another mystery to me. And I don't really care. So as long as I'm getting through to some people, that's fine. And again, like I said, this is kind of a catharsis process for me too. I watch these things, so it's something. It's content in an ever shrinking world of content, But back to this idea of, the government as the father protector. And, and of course it is the nanny state, because people just throw their children right into daycare and then in through the grade school system, middle school, high school, and then into college. People spend basically a quarter to a third of their lives, well, really about a third of their lives, because the average age of, people dying now is like 77, I think it's down to. So it's like a third of your life, because by the time you're done college, half these people are in college till they're 25, right? They just lollygag around or stay in their college town until then, and then, fart around. And so they still think like college students and hang out with other college students. I know somebody in their 40s who also seems to know many other people in that age group, and they still kind of talk college-y. You know what I mean? It's like when I got out of college, man, I was out of college. I was right into the cities. Of course, I worked for Columbia University for a little while, so I was like back in college, on campus, in a sense, working with college students. But, it's a lot different in some of the Ivy League schools. At least it was then, and this is many years ago. But, it was, I didn't feel as if I was a college student. And I remember going, to a college party once. One of the people that worked under me, I used to supervise the production of the paper and the law school journal and, some things like that. Columbia Guide to New York. That's what I used to do, And I remember, I don't know, some of the students that worked for the student paper, they were having a party. And I remember going, I said, I'll go. Because I wasn't much older than a lot of the people, the students at that time. But, it was like I went in, I had like a beer, walked around, said hello to a couple of people, and I just went home. Because like when I was out of college, I was out of college. I liked getting into the business world, or into the real world and doing stuff. But, people are still like, it's like this Peter Pan culture. And maybe that's part of the reason why they're still allowing the government to be this, in charge, follow the leader type of Pied Piper, right? I don't know, what exactly is the mechanics of that whole thing. But there's something weird like that going on. And so this 99% number, we'll get into the space thing, put the daily image up just to keep you, in case somebody Nobody's coming in at this point this morning, but later on. You're just tuning in.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Makes it sound a little more professional. So 99%, what is it? 97 to 99%, depending on the age group, right? Demographics, location, that sort of thing, have not died from that which shall remain unspoken. Okay? And for some reason, the government, but the corporatocracy, because there is no government anymore, right? There just isn't. And how can I stress that enough? There is no government. Okay? Somehow has to dictate all of these things and is generating fear so that you've got that woman behind my hat, emblematic of millions of people who are scared to death. But they're not dying. And so, very strange, very strange. And so the question comes to, what the heck's going on? And, who's in charge? Who's really in charge of things? And I was talking about that Prometheus thing, and then, Ike and aliens and, Boozilla, the reptilians. I mean, but this is kind of like, why did they come out? Think about this. Okay, so we know they're scaring everybody to death over the unspeakable, right? Okay. Which for you people who are trying to think about, that I might be crossing the line or something. No, I'm not talking about what you're thinking about. Okay. For you other people, I'm talking about something that I think, we know what we're talking about. But then in the midst of that, when it was like things were calming down, see, this is the thing. I don't know if you noticed this phenomenon. That there for a little while, things were calming down, and then suddenly they came out with the alien thing, the UFO thing. They call them something different, unexplained aerial phenomenon or something weird like that, whatever the heck it is. I mean, come on. It's UFOs. You've been lying about them for 70 frickin' years. How many astronauts have come forward and talked about it? Right? Especially, on their deathbeds, have, basically fessed up. And now it's pretty much public that we've been lied to our entire lives. Right? For at least 70 years or something like that, they've been basically, just putting this out as if this was a secret. But it doesn't make any sense because, and then you have this Earth catastrophe thing, that the CIA's declassified, like that Chan Thomas book I talked about yesterday, and I have a copy of the page in my book, Codex back here. I'll get Boozilla out of the way for now. And, showing that this is, in other words, all of the stuff, that's the reason I brought up that guy's Ike's name, because, all of the stuff, not all, that's an exaggeration. Much of the things, let's put it this way. Many of the things that over the years have been considered conspiracy theories, right? Which is ridiculous. Because first of all, the idea of a theory, requires way more documentation. All right. That, you don't have a theory, in other words, evolution, Darwinism, right? What we call Darwin's theory of evolution is a theory. The Big Bang, the idea that the universe began with this Big Bang, is called a theory. All right. Even Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. It's a theory of relativity. So how do you, and there are many other theories like that, right? They're theories. Okay. So if Einstein has created this body of work, all the mathematics, the physics, everything that's gone into this. And since then, all of the testing, the arguments, the articles in peer-reviewed journals, etc., right? For the theory of relativity, right? Which is considered the theory of relativity. And the Big Bang, the same way, all of the astrophysicists who have written about the Big Bang theory, not the TV show, right? And all the work, the mathematics and everything that's gone into that. And the same with like Darwin and you could just rattle off. There's all kinds of theories. Okay, so then you get to this concept of the conspiracy theory. How do you even marry those two words, conspiracy and theory, together? Okay, first of all, a conspiracy just means two people. We could pull that up. You could pull it up on any dictionary. All a conspiracy is two or more people conspiring or working in concert, tandem, together to do something, usually like negatively, like rob a bank, right? Or involved in some sort of criminal or nefarious activity. That's like the common usage of that word in our vernacular, modern day, definition, right? That's what a conspiracy is, right? So, if two people try to do something, two or more people try to do something, the cops, all right, are going to basically arrest them on conspiracy to commit blank. All right. So that's what a conspiracy is. Conspiracy is two or more people, right? Doing, generally speaking, that are being accused of some sort of working together to do some sort of thing, right? Or maybe even hide something, right? Right. Okay, so how does that become a theory to begin with? All right. How do you marry that with the word theory? It's not a theory. UFOs are, it's a conspiracy theory. And you're saying, oh, well, yeah, you're saying that the government conspired to, and it's a theory, and what? And you present, and the evidence presented is strong enough to be in line, considered a theory, just like Einstein, Darwin, right, and the leading astrophysicists, and many other peer-reviewed people, scientists that have been written up in respected journals, academics in leading universities throughout the world. Okay, so you're putting the, UFO phenomenon or anything else in that category. See, I would say then you're elevating it to, you're legitimizing it, right? By calling it they never thought about that one, right? Oh, it's a theory. Oh, wow. So in other words, you're saying UFOs, it's a conspiracy theory. I see. Okay, so it's a legitimate theory. Yeah, wow. See, people don't, you know what I mean? It's like I always say, the news reporters and other people, they never come back. No one ever says anything like, did you ever hear anyone say anything? That's why I say this show, practically every show, I usually nail something. And, if only people were watching it. And the idea is just to wake up your mind so that it mixes it up a little bit like a blender, okay? And when I mean mind, I mean consciousness, not the bioelectric brain, which is the jello mold, right? With rotten pieces of banana and sour grapes in it. Now think about that. Next time someone says conspiracy theory, they're basically putting you in the same league as Einstein. All right? Same, Yeah. Theory. Conspiracy theory. It's not theory. It's not theory, All right? You could say UFO phenomenon. And there have been books written on that are very, very convincing, and lay out some very interesting facts. In fact, I did a show on several of those a couple months ago, I think it was. But that's how crazy this all is. So how can someone talking about something involved in health, all right? First of all, you are your own person. So you have the right, under natural law. See, you have to look at the world in a sense of, we're going to get into this. We're going to get into some alien stuff in a second. Just follow my thing. Our focus should be on natural law first, foremost. That means like what the laws of nature, all right, of your being, okay? However and whatever you believe to be, what existence is, okay? Whether it's in some sort of religious way, spiritual way, whether you believe in consciousness as this, existential thing, right? It's the hard problem of consciousness, the thing that defines you as you, that is some separate and apart from the bioelectric brain, or whether you believe in its soul, like I've said, like that life is a soul experience, and that soul is your consciousness, and that soul is the individual, or whether it's some New Age spiritual or even Eastern religion type of spiritualism type of thing, whatever that is, let's not get into that. Again, and I touched on that yesterday. You're free to believe what you will. You don't force your ideology onto someone else. Just like you don't want someone forcing you to do some kind of thing, and that's natural. That's like natural law. That's the way of nature, right? How things exist. So this brings us to this concept now that, of the garbage truck is outside. I don't know if it's interfering with this microphone or not. It's a directional microphone, so you shouldn't be able to hear them. I've heard there's a bear in the area that's been rummaging through some people's garbage, and I only put out a plastic bag, so hopefully I just saw that this morning on an email thing. Comes through some community group that people post on. I don't post. It's like everything else, I kind of keep my eye out there on what's going on, but I'm not actively involved in it. I don't have time to do that, get involved in discussions back and forth and all that stuff. This is my communications medium. But apparently since the truck went on, I don't think a bear ate my garbage. Hopefully not. It'd be a mess. So, yeah, the laws of nature, right? And natural law. Even the word law is like a weird thing, okay? That's a creation of man almost, It's like rules. It's like terms of service. How do these things that certain people decide, and then you accept this, and somehow by you clicking a button, on a phone or a web page or a TV, whatever now, somehow you're suddenly now totally under the thumb of this ridiculous amount of of rules, man-made corporate rules, and you have to abide by them. And if you deviate, you are kicked out of society and erased and all of that. That's absurdity. And that's another one of those things that people just like, oh, yeah, right? They accept. And it is accepted in society today. So it's like this 99% thing. It's like, look, you're in charge of your self. You are your own person. You're in charge of your body. And it's like the doctor-patient confidentiality, just like the lawyer-client confidentiality, right? That your medical history, your health is between you. If you prefer to keep that to yourself, or it's between you and your health professional. And when you go out into a hospital, like I say I did last week, because I was feeling a little bit I was feeling really bad. But I think I've gotten to the bottom of it. I'm like kind of 99% sure that I'm, I think I figured it out. I think I'm okay. But that's my business. But if I open myself to allow myself to go under tests and give permission to medical professionals to perform those tests, then they have that data and the results of those tests. And so that information is shared with them, and who knows where else it goes at that point, right? But it's still between myself and those medical professionals or those institutions, in this case a hospital, or my personal physician or specialist, right, that I may see. Not the corporatocracy, not the government. Not big pharma, not some or pseudo-government organization, right? Something masquerading like it is the government agency, but really it isn't, something like that. And then these people that make the news rounds on news shows and are all over the internet and YouTube and stuff. Particularly one guy whose face is everywhere and who flip flops from day to day, doesn't know what he's doing. Looks like he's about ready to just lose his mind. I've seen the face I've seen lately. Looks like he's like losing it. He can't. He's been like flip flopping and caught in so many circular type of statements and whatever. I think it's perjury. Lying to Congress and stuff like that personally. But then again, like I say, I'm not political and I don't want to get in that thing. So it's let's not go there. But it's opinion. It's his opinion. And other medical professionals have differing opinions. There have been other papers written, right, about things. So people have differing opinions about these things. And no one has the right to your body. See, it's very interesting, when we talk about things, like a woman's body, right? And the rights of, that a woman has in general, in certain, reproductive ways. But somehow they don't apply in other ways to that same woman. And I'm talking about the thing that you can't talk about now. And of course that extends to men and whatever else you want to call, whatever you want to call yourself. And, people just let this happen. So the question is why and how and what is going on? So who's in charge? What's the end game here? What kind of game are they really playing here? If 99% of the people aren't dying from this thing, what's going on? And how do they keep extending this stuff, right? And so why when there was like a little bit of like calm there for a while, people were thinking, okay, looks like we got it under control. Okay, that's cool. Then suddenly they come out with the alien, the UFO idea to like maybe so that people could start being afraid. Well, maybe there's going to be an alien invasion. UFOs are real. Oh no. Oh my. Right? Let's put I think the full Alien movies are available on one of the pay channels now. Like the whole thing. Let's get people scared. Let's scare them every way we can possibly can so we can do this, that, the other. I mean, it's wacky. And I do this show because I care about people. I do this show because it's service to others instead of service to self, which I think is also part of like nature, the natural way, the logical way to be, just sensible. I don't make money on this show at all. I'm demonetized. Okay? Don't make money. All these shirts I talk about, go to TonyCaravanLive.com, buy a mug, buy a shirt, get my book, all that stuff. You think anybody's done it? No, not a single one. Not a single one. And I still do this every day, 7 days a week. And every show there's a little nugget of some kind of thing that comes out that really is I think is kind of like, a little bit mind blowing, a little bit open your mind to a different way of thinking about something and maybe questioning, right? That's the whole idea, questioning. Aren't we allowed to question anymore? So, it's like when you look at this alien, this horrific alien going after Sigourney Weaver in whatever alien movie this was, whether it was 1 or 2 or 3, I don't know. I don't remember. I've watched them all. I thought the Prometheus and Covenant were better. I mean, though the original Alien was a real shocker, of course, when the thing came out of the guy's chest and stuff. But I'm not a big horror guy. It's like, the same kind of people probably like to ride roller coasters and stuff. That's like not my, I don't get a thrill. I don't thrill out of that. Or they like fireworks. They like to hear a big bang. Right. It's like, I don't need that. That's not my thing. I like thrillers and I like sci-fi. So I guess if there's some horror in the sci-fi, but sometimes I find that, too much sci-fi is rated as horror. Ever notice that? It's like they'll say it's horror sci-fi. I'm going like, well, what about science fiction? Science fiction should be more like 2001: A Space Odyssey or something like that. Pure science. So they're trying to scare us. So this thing, the way I look at it, what's going on now is the way people are reacting. Look at the woman screaming above my head. Okay? Like in terror. Horror. The horror. The horror. And look at this alien with going after, confronting Sigourney Weaver. Right? And now imagine that alien being what that guy who's all over TV is saying. That's the thing that we can't talk about. That's how people are viewing this. Right? They're in horror and they see it as like some kind of like thing like that. Instead of, something that 99% of the people, aren't going to die from, right? So who's in charge? Boozilla with the beer, Reptilian aliens have taken over? Or is that Klaus guy from the World Economic Forum? Was David Icke right? Right? I mean, what's going on? I mean, things are so absurd that you almost have to laugh at it.
It's really funny. Really funny.
I mean, it's really funny.
It's really funny. Really funny.
Okay.
And it should be no laughing matter of what they're doing. But it might as well. It seems like that because it doesn't seem rational, right? Nothing seems rational right now. I don't subscribe to the simulation theory or any of that stuff, right? I'm not closed-minded to anything, but 99.9% sure that we're not living in a simulation, and I could go through. It would take a whole show for me to explain why. I think I might have once, but in the past we may well have been. There are those that believe that people visited here from the Pleiades. That's what we're looking at here on this card. Others from Sirius, star system, particularly like the Dogon tribe talked about. Right. There are others that have this, idea of, that goes back to Atlantis, Lemuria, people coming from Mars before that was destroyed. All of that. There's the Thunderbolts project that talks about the electric universe and how, we were a Saturnian system at one point, not a solar system, and that there was some kind of, clash, of, it's almost like Velikovsky's When Worlds Collide type of idea. But it was when the sun soul came and that raised havoc. But prior to that, there was an ancient civilization, a so-called golden age. There's all kinds of interesting, very interesting phenomenon. There's ideas, legitimate theories, because they're, in other words, they're worked out. All right. And they're by people with, who have, who've done the math, done the physics, can answer questions, can stand before, an audience and respond to questions, have written papers and have been published in some instances, many instances, depending on what legitimate theory, unlike a conspiracy theory. It's just as two words that don't even go together. Conspiracy theory. So I say everything that's going on right now is far out, man. And I'm just living here, doing my thing. Last year I had some dental work done and I had to go get tested, and I did, and I tested negative. I just was in the ER last week, and I didn't go in for anything like that thing that they're talking about now. My face is getting brighter because I pulled up a paper of my CT scan, and it's going to, let's see, I'm looking for lungs. Let's see. Pancreas normal, spleen normal, adrenals normal. Bladder unremarkable in appearance. Biliary, liver. Okay, lower thorax. The lung bases are clear and there is no pleural or pericardial fluid. Okay? Which basically is where this thing kind of attacks. So as of just a couple of days ago, through that CT scan and a bunch of other blood tests and all kinds of other things. So I've been out and about and stuff, and, I don't know. So I'm supposedly clean. But, the way people are talking about this, it's, I don't know. So from normal circumstances, it's like far out, man. Are these people space aliens? Are they in charge? I mean, that's what it almost seems like people with some kind of bizarre agenda, because it goes beyond socialism, right? That's seems to be the word of the day, these are socialists. America will not be a communist country. Well, I don't really see communism in that regard. I don't see, socialism, going back to Roosevelt, social security, but then again, we paid into, from our paychecks into Social Security and into Medicare. I know all the years I worked, it was deducted from my paycheck. Right? And, and unemployment benefits and different things like that are usually matched by the employers. Those things have always been a burden on small businesses, having to pay out just like there was a burden on you. And, you got if you were below a certain level of earnings, you got your federal income tax refund. But it's not like you ever got your Social Security or Medicare payments or unemployment payments refunded. No, that goes into the fund. Now, whatever the government does with that money and how whacked out and how wasteful they are, well, that's that's a whole nother story, and I don't want to get into that. Besides, we have a corporatocracy now anyway. It's not really a government, right? It's a corporatocracy masquerading as a government, all right? It's big tech, big pharma, military industrial complex, right? You name it, right? Masquerading as a government. You got bureaucrats who are basically just, making decisions that unelected people making decisions. You've got corporations creating terms of service that are superseding what were once the so-called laws of the land, the Constitution, right? First Amendment doesn't apply. Fourth Amendment doesn't apply can be overruled by a terms of service. It's kind of funny. And it's not funny. It's far out, man. So, what's going on? What's really going on? As far as it's concerned in the U.S., we've got a beautiful climate. All right? I was out yesterday for a little while. It was like one of the most beautiful days. This entire summer has been pretty darn nice. We've had some humidity, but this past week it's been in the 70s and sunny and the sky's blue, right? You can't tell it from my from the color from right now, but I have like a really dark tan. I don't know why the lights don't show that, really dark tan, like as if I was on the islands or something like that. It's weird, but it doesn't show up under this lighting for some reason. Well, not that I care. So yeah, I've been out in my garden and trying to get vitamin D, laying in my lounge chair. I showed you that little short clip the other day from my iPhone. I could show it to you again. Show you my lounge chair. I get a kick out of this. Let's turn this on. Let's get rid of this far out man thing. I shouldn't have put the title card that high up. All right. That was the tomato picture I just took this morning. So there's proof in the pudding. I took 2 of them. In case you're not going to my Instagram page, that was the squash and some more tomatoes I pulled out yesterday. And this is my lounge chair. We can just look a little bit at this video. That's where I sit most of the time. That's my mini greenhouse. Those fans are solar powered. And look at the growth of my garden here. Isn't that insane? Like I say, I showed this the other day, but it looks ridiculous. You can see some tomatoes at the very lower area. A lot of this is just overgrown. They're herbs, so it looks out of control. But, that's like oregano going to flower and then ultimately to seed. And there's some banana peppers on the right, marigolds here. There were tomato plants, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that's just me showing you that kind of thing. Like I say, I always like to justify and show you firsthand what I'm talking about, No bull, no clickbait, none of that nonsense. It's real. That's my backyard garden. It's coming from my iPhone. Right? Video. But yeah, I just want to in this last little segment of this show, because this isn't clickbait, this far out man and showing the Pleiades. If the government could come out and say, okay, UFOs are real, whatever they want to call them, aerial phenomenon. But I mean, there's more to it than that. And I've seen some interviews with people that have been more in depth, right? Military people, Air Force, that, there are higher resolution images of these things. Okay. And these jets are following. What you're seeing is that camera is the purpose of that camera is to focus on a target. It's not to detail the target. You see? The idea is to basically get the target within your sights, all right, so that you can basically, if you get the word, take it out. We have satellites that in real time are looking down at any given time, covering so many different parts of the world too, people aren't aware of. Right? And this is public knowledge. I mean, it's not like it's classified. They pretend it's classified. Well, they're not showing it because then it would give away, certain classified information or let our enemies know our capabilities. How many times have you heard that? When it's been pretty much admitted, decades and decades ago that we could read license plates from space. Okay? I just, it's laughable when you think about it. The way, the excuses and how the announcers or whoever the interviewers are, and even these other people, they waste so much time. Like the people, the so-called I don't know if you call them counterculture, but the people who are, are going against the so-called mainstream. Even it's just blather. Every now and then I'll watch one of them. I think I talked about yesterday. I watched was watching the show from that original guy who got kicked off of everything. All right. Not Ike, but the original one. And the show was pretty much nonsense. They have a platform, they have a technology, they have the ability, to do this broadcast. And instead it's the same stuff people are doing on YouTube. It's just nonsense. It's like they're just I don't know. To me, it seems so rank amateur, right? Why don't they get into, they're afraid. It was like that girl, who used to work for the guy who got kicked off. But the moment that they were going after her, she's still on YouTube, though. You know who I'm talking about. If you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. If you don't know who I'm talking about, just follow the line of thinking. It doesn't matter. I'm making a point, and it applies to any individual. But when she got into a little bit, like they were going after her, and then eventually they just dropped everything. But the guy who originally got off, he bailed. He totally I don't know her, I'm like, and he just left her in the lurch. And that's when I totally lost respect for, not like I had a lot of great respect, but I mean, I totally, had no respect for the guy whatsoever. And that's the problem right now. So you either have people who are completely apathetic out there, who are and oblivious, gone through the like I say, a third of their life, not a quarter, stop saying that. It's a third of their life is it basically spent in the indoctrination conditioning system. In other words, being programmed Their biological brain is being programmed, preparing them for that later in life, as soon as they get out, if they ever get out of the Peter Pan world, that they move into the other world, and then it's a pure propaganda and control system, because they're already programmed to accept, to listen to the Pied Piper's flute, and that the emperor is wearing clothes, right? So you got that group of people. Then you got the group of people like this, right, above here, who are scared to death, no different than like Sigourney Weaver, right? Because they're scared of this thing, as if it's going to do that to them, right? Instead of, some, catching a cold or something. And then you have the people that have the opportunity, excuse me, which I don't, because like I say, I'm trying to work within the framework of the terms of service. Because I like doing the morning show, and I like having these neat visual effects and these neat sound effects and all this kind of stuff. It's fun.
This is insane. This is insane. This is insane.
This is a nightmare. Must be a nightmare.
I don't know. I have fun doing this stuff. Even though I got up at 2 a.m., out of bed at 3 or earlier. I don't care. So, maybe the far out man, it's like, yeah, my show, that should be what you were saying. You should be looking at these shows and going, man, that's far out, man. But, I believe the way I look at it is that for all we know, this Klaus guy from the World Economic Forum, this whole like totalitarianism, whatever, authoritarian state, whatever they're trying to do, I don't know. It's so absurd that to me, it may as well be, my nose is itchy. It may as well be space aliens, And they seem to be admitting that they're here. Right? I mean, didn't they? I mean, they got pictures of the craft, So, they're admitting that they're here. So how do we know they haven't been here all along, like people are saying? How do we know they're not the people in charge? Right? That they're giving the orders, they're giving the commands. It's all so absurd. It's just as absurd as the stuff coming out of, the corporatocracy, the marionettes, the government people, the marionettes, the former U.S., right? Former Western civilization, the people the puppets that are, coming out, marching around on stages, giving speeches on the media and talking to people, getting media coverage, but they really answer to the corporatocracy, and the terms of service have taken over everything. So, right? I mean, it's just as absurd. It's far out, man. It's like, people in these states where they've legalized marijuana, and medical marijuana and stuff. It's like, far out, man. Yeah, wow, alien spaceship, man. That's far out, man. Yeah. It's far out, man, that people are allowing themselves to spend a third of their life, I keep saying a third of their lives in some indoctrination system, being programmed, and then they come out of it, and then they enter the world of propaganda. And everything, like I say in that shirt, which you can see in the background, everything you know is wrong. Or my favorite shirt, which is you don't know what you don't know, right? I don't know if I have one of those to show you, but all I've got right now are on here to show you is the mug or the hoodie, right? Rock Flux. That's what I'm pushing these days. But you don't know what you don't know. It's like that thing behind me, game over, man. You have to get that on a shirt or a hoodie. There's the morning show mug. I just showed you this mug. We've got 2 different mugs now. By the way, they come on metal cups, ceramic cups, or travel mugs. Travel things. I got one of those. I got it out in the garage. I got to bring it in now that I'm drinking coffee. Excuse me. So, yeah, I don't know what else to say about it. It's like, when I started this show this morning, it was dark, nighttime, middle of the night. People, in other days, people would be just coming out of the bars. Nowadays, that era is over. The big gatherings, right? Where are the summer blockbuster concerts, big outdoor concerts where you've got tens of thousands of people together? That's pop culture, right? So I don't know. It's really far out, man, what's going on. And you don't know what to believe. But, don't get scared. Don't be like that woman in that picture, that horror movie thing. There's like, that's what's bubbling inside of a lot of people out there. And I see them. I see them in the grocery store when I go down there. Right? You could tell. You walk down the aisle, and it's not, I go early when it's not even crowded. And I'm talking men and women. And I'll see, I walk down, there'll be some guy and he'll like, and I'm wearing my little mask thing when I go in the grocery store. I don't deal with any nonsense with people. Like are playing any games. And there's people in there who don't wear masks. But you see these people like they're scared and they'll like kind of like almost run into the shelf, right? Or knock something over to just be as far away from another person as possible. Right? As if like, that person is that. Yeah, that's how they're responding. And it's not that way. And the government's got no business. All right? They're meddling in our personal affairs. All right? They're meddling in our personal affairs, and we're letting them do that. And we're allowing ourselves to be scared. Instead, it's between us and our medical professional. And and I do what, I did what I had to do. Right? I went out when I was going to a dentist, they said, requested I got tested, I got a test. Tested negative. I'm probably one of the only people who ever tested negative, too, the way I understand these tests. Like I say, I just went to the ER for other reasons. I was in pain and stuff. All the places where these so-called FANG attacks and stuff like that, because I was looking inside, forget about, of course they did the temperature thing and all that other stuff, when you go in there, test you all of that. But apart from the, superficial stuff that the average person gets tested on, they ended up twisting my arm and giving me a CT scan and looking inside my lungs and heart and stuff like that, and different things. And it was like clear. Nothing going on there. Nothing to see here. You're all right. in that respect. I mean, I got some other things. But like I said, I think I got it under control. I got that part figured out. Diet and exercise, vitamin D, get sunshine, get outside, and that kind of thing. So I don't know where we're going with this thing as a people. I honestly don't know if there's space aliens in charge of this that are just like tormenting us, trying to kill us off, take over the planet. I talked about yesterday, since 2001, 2 million people have been every explanation exhausted. So 2 million people are actually just disappeared, have vanished off the planet. No, out of the United States. What am I saying? The planet? Who knows? From other parts of the planet. But 2 million people in the U.S., are just vanished. That's after, exploring, going through every avenue of missing persons and sometimes a missing person file will just have their name and will say, well, they probably this, they'll write it off as a possible, this, possible that. No, there's 2 million that there's no explanation, not even like, they don't even put in maybe possible this. And like I say, that's an actual person's name is associated with those 2 million files of just people who vanished. And unlike the other, couple of million people, or maybe 500,000 people, unsolved murders, maybe more than 500,000 during the same time frame. But you can't put them in that category because that's another name on another case file, cold case file. So these are like cold case files. Unsolved murders are one. And then there's these other cold case files with a different name and that number into like 2 million in just the past 2 decades or so, 1 million in just the last 10 years that are a name, a specific person, all avenues exhausted, all possibilities ruled out that have just vanished from the, vanished. Right? So who knows what's going on? So maybe these space aliens are eating us on the magnitude of like, 90,000, 100,000 a year. Right? So maybe when I was talking about like before, I used to say, we're cattle on a tax farm. Maybe we're more like cattle and those mutilations and stuff. Maybe we're more like just food for these space aliens. But like I'm saying, is it crazy and absurd and far out as that sounds? And I don't watch the news because I cut the cord. But YouTube, you know what's going on today because of technology. But it's just as far out, So, man, it's crazy. You got to keep your wits about yourself. Who knows what's going on. But the most far out, explanation is as viable and believable as the nonsense that's coming out from the talking heads out there. Whether they're in the corporate arena, political arena, which is the same thing kind of now, or the media, multimillionaires in the media who pretend they have the common man in mind, or these people from foundations or people who are getting all this money and become multimillionaires for causes. But really, in reality, they're just millionaires and they're going out buying houses and cars and stuff. So I don't know. It's pretty crazy. But I just wanted to that's my babble for today. So, I guess I'll end it there.
Good morning.
Go to TonyCaravanLive.com and consider, get a shirt. You don't know what you don't know. Or get one of those mugs or a hoodie or something like that. It'll help support the show, the technology here, what I'm trying to do. And maybe I can expand this thing. But otherwise, spread the word. Share this. Pass it on. All right? Until tomorrow, take care. Have a great day. Don't